Hello there, and welcome to Playtime Online. This is the Institute of Play's webinar series that allows us to directly connect and share our work with you. I'm Amna Siddiqui, the producer and moderator of this program. Today we're talking about teens and game design, asking how we can reinforce students' interest in this field in a meaningful and effective way. We'll be discussing a new learning platform designed and developed here at the Institute called Gamekit, which gives students an opportunity to take on the role of game designer. Now, let's say hi to this afternoon's speakers. We're joined by several of those who had a hand in designing Gamekit, along with 3 students who helped playtest it. We'll be asking our students to do a live offline demo of Gamekit about halfway through today's episode, so be sure to stick around for that. So let's have everyone introduce themselves, along with their role in creating Gamekit. Alice, do you want to start?
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name is Alice Chin, and I'm the project manager and producer for...
Oops, Alice, I think you're freezing.
Oh, I'm sorry, guys. Could you hear me?
Yes. Nope. Okay, so I think Alice and Don, I think you guys need to, I think that there's some, I think the connection's a little slow.
I was the project manager producer for the Gamekit project.
Oops, Alice?
Which means that I was in charge of crawling all of our fantastic games.
Okay, sorry about that. I think Alice and Don are going to move to a different location very quickly. Bob, can you introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Bob Holling. I'm the experienced designer at the Institute of Play, and I help to work with the design team and with Alice and the rest of the crew to design the experience and to help test and iterate on the designs that we work through. We'll talk a little bit about that, I guess, later this hour.
Great, and Greg?
My name is Greg Trifari. I'm a game designer at the Institute of Play, and my role in the project was sort of bringing both game design and sort of teaching games expertise to the project. So working with some of the game designers to put together some of the exercises that we use in Gamekit, and also working with Bob and Alice on the structure of what the actual interaction looks like.
Awesome. And Shula, do you want to introduce yourselves along with Liam and Rocco?
Hi, I'm Shula. I'm a game designer at the Institute of Play, and I work in our design space called Mission Lab, which is at the New York City public school called Quest to Learn. So I worked with Gamekit, so just sort of bringing expertise of doing game design with young people. And these are 2 students at Quest to Learn, and I'll have them introduce themselves.
Hi, I am Liam, and I guess I'm one of the students here to help playtest or show you Gamekit.
Hi, I'm Rocco, and I'm also here to playtest Gamekit.
Great, and just in time, I think Alice and Don have rejoined. Alice, if you, hey Alice, can you hear me?
Yeah, hi guys.
Oh my goodness, that is much better. All right, so Alice, do you want to introduce yourself again?
Yeah, I'd be delighted. So I was the project manager and producer for Gamekit, which means I got to work with all these fantastic game designers that we hired to create these game kits, and work with our producer and our creative director and our user experience designers to make sure that the schedule and all the resources were in place to create this excellent product for you guys. And I will turn it over to Don Miller so he can share with you what he's all about.
All right, you can hear me all right?
Yes.
Good. Yeah, my name is Don Miller, and I work in informal learning here at Institute of Play, and I helped playtest Gamekit with Greg, the game designer, who worked on this, and at a few events over the summertime, as well as help to kind of revise and reshape some of the challenges that we currently have.
Thanks, everyone. And I'd like to remind our viewers that if at any point you'd like to ask today's speakers a question, please click on the blue participate text under this video on the right-hand side. We'll spend the last 15 minutes or so of the webinar answering your questions during our Q&A portion. So let's kick off today's conversation. And Alice, can you first give us some background on Gamekit?
Absolutely, Amna. Thanks for the intro. When we decided to create the Gamekit product, what we were really excited about was the opportunity to reach a larger audience. The Institute of Play has a number of really awesome game design products and platforms and experiences that we have for teenagers and for people of this age group, but most of them are location-based, camps or schools that we run in New York City, sometimes in Chicago, and sometimes in other locations. But what we really felt like we were limited by was geography. We also felt like we had this fantastic network of game designers that we'd worked with on a variety of different projects, and a lot of people who would work primarily with, some with our camps and some with our schools, but primarily with our executive director, Katie Salen, who are excited about game design and sharing it with younger students, but who had never had the opportunity to do so. So it was really a fantastic opportunity to bring these groups together and to create a platform for kids who are interested in game design. So what we wanted to do, and what the real goal of the project was to open game design to a group of students, educators, parents, mentors, kids who are just really excited about game design and didn't have a resource to access what it meant to be a game designer. For this age group, which our main focus is for the 13 to 18-year-old group. So our goal was to really create a product that was accessible from anywhere, whether you're here in the U.S., whether you're in Egypt, whether you're in Japan, whether you're a 13-year-old kind of novice game designer who has never designed a game before but loves playing games, or whether you're kind of a more expert game designer who's getting ready for college and really wants to kind of ramp up and prep for your own getting ready to go to college to become a game designer, or whether you're a parent or a mentor who really wants to show kids a new way to think, which is really what for us game design is all about. It's a different way of thinking, about creation and systems that really empowers people to try new things in exciting new ways and to improve on designs, to try something, to see if it works or doesn't work, to see if it fails or succeeds, and then to see how they can improve on it over and over again. So our real goal in this was to create a website, to create a product, and to create a place where people could go and find instructions on how to build a game, and then to get really excited about it and to create a game, to really engage with their own ideas and their own excitement about gaming and game design, and then to bring it back to the community that we've created online so that they can share it with other aspiring game designers, have other people play test their games, and really share their excitement and ideas. So the goal was to really create a product that's available to anyone, anywhere, anytime, who's interested in game design, and we think we've really been able to do that with this Gamekit product, and so we're super, super excited to be sharing it with the public for the first time.
Awesome, thanks, Alice. So I'd like to take a few steps back for just a couple of minutes and talk about the benefits of game design and what it's able to teach teens. So Shula, do you mind answering this?
Yeah, absolutely. I think actually Alice touched on a lot of the things that we think are really, that game design really has to offer to young people. So one of them is games are authoring tools that unlock new modes of creativity. So giving tools to young people and allowing them to just sort of experiment. Games are models of complex systems. So as a game designer, you're sort of working with this system and learning to manipulate different parts and experiment with it. And as a game designer, you really need to have empathy. You need to be able to look into other people's experiences and design something for someone else. So you're not just designing something that you find to be fun, but you have to design something that you think is fun to a wide range of audiences and be able to predict how they will use what you design. And then in general, just the process of game design requires, sort of design thinking skills in this process of iteration. And I think one of the most valuable things, which Alice touched upon, is as you're designing a game, playtesting is just hugely important, as you'll see when we work with our students later on. In watching players interact with the game that you've designed, you learn so much about how people actually will use it. And oftentimes a complete failure when you're designing a game, a complete failure will teach you so much and be able to help you improve what you're working on. So I think games offer this opportunity to experience this failure as sort of like a really valuable moment where you're able to really improve what you're working on and learn from your design experiences. But for all of these reasons, I think it's a really valuable experience for young people to have.
Cool. So let's talk about the ideas behind Gamekit. Greg, can you share some of the concepts that are driving it?
Sure. I mean, so when we sort of sat down to think about what Gamekit or how Gamekit should work, we were really it sort of grew out of our game design practice, which is one of iterative design, and like Sheila was saying, it's all about you have an idea, you play test it, and you get feedback on it, and you design for it. And so we sort of wanted to bring that into the mix of the game kits. We initially thought maybe we would put together sort of a whole game design curriculum, but then we realized that we're not going to be able to come up with all the every exercise possible, and we know tons of interesting game designers who have lots of great ideas out there, and so we figured let's go ask them and have them provide stuff for it. And that and from that sort of diversity of different game designers, we got a lot of interesting new perspectives on game design, not just sort of one monolithic sort of perspective. And then the other big thing that was driving it was this idea of doing. Really, game design is all about practice, practice, practice. I don't think there's really one best way to be a game designer or to design games. What there are is just making games and playing them and watching people have fun at them or not have fun at them, and then learning from that. And so all of Gamekit, sort of at the core of every Gamekit is this idea of you have to, if you want to be good at making games, you have to make games and play them and see how they work and see how they fail. And realizing that, like Sheila was saying, games are a great place to do that, to see things fail and improve them. So that's sort of those are sort of the big concepts driving Gamekit.
Cool. And I'd like to know why these concepts are important for middle school students specifically.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think, like Sheila was saying, there's, it teaches a sort of systems literacy, which I think is very important. It teaches you the way that sort of things can interact. It also empowers you, allows you to create things that you're interested in. And I think, I think we have a sort of at Institute of Play and Mission Lab have a strong belief that this sort of systems thinking is an extremely important design and thinking tool. And Sheila, do you have other thoughts on why it would apply specifically to middle school kids?
No, I think that's pretty good. But just to reiterate the failure, I think kids today in school, failure is seen as this horrible thing, this thing that you have to avoid at all costs. And I think it's really important for young people to have the experience of seeing failure as something that you really can learn from and improve, using it as an opportunity to improve and to grow. So I think that's really strong.
Right, and I think that happens. I think you get that a lot in when playing games. Certainly, games are an excellent space to experiment and fail and try again.
Absolutely.
And I think in game design, it sort of takes that to the next level, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've designed dozens of games, and half of them were horrible, and almost all of them, even the good ones, were horrible at the start. And so you learn a lot and gain a lot of self-confidence through that process.
Mm-hmm.
And Don, as an educator yourself, I'm wondering if you have anything that you'd like to add.
The volume here. All right, are we good? The volume? Yeah. I think, yeah, just to kind of echo the sentiments of Shula and Greg there about failure. I think is something that students are kind of taught to be scared of and be worried about, and the one good thing about playing games, as I said, is that students will kind of get used to this, being able to try again, but still having a playful environment where they can learn still often isn't the case. So something like this is very self-directed. The students can do it at their own pace. And even if they do fail the first time, they can work at their own pace and try again. And I think that's one of the great things about Gamekit as well, is that there isn't this kind of impetus to move on if the students aren't ready, and allows them to kind of move and feel their way along and gain confidence there along the way.
Great. Thanks, Don. Now, in terms of method, I imagine there was quite a process involved in identifying these concepts. Bob, can you touch on how Gamekit became Gamekit, kind of the playtesting and design iterations the team was confronted with?
Sure. One of the things that I think is interesting about this conversation is it sort of it also applies to, I think that the playtesting and iterating on a design, I think it's important that that's actually a transferable skill, and we use that same process in the creation of Gamekit. So we came out with a set of challenges and a design that we took out to the world and did some playtesting. And I think Greg and Don can probably speak a little more detail around how we did that. But what we discovered is that our first try at it wasn't super successful, and so we went back to the drawing board and we iterated on the design and on some of the challenges, some of the content as well. And luckily, in our second phase, we had well, actually in both, but we had a really great design and development team. Aaron Kapoor was the visual designer who worked with us to iterate around those things, and on the dev side, Tristan Ader was working with us to help iterate on those processes, iterate on the product and improve it.
Great. Does anyone want to add anything?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I could speak a little bit to as Bob was mentioning, some of the playtests. So we did, so the initial versions of Gamekit were very long. We asked a bunch of really amazing game designers and educators to help us come up with some exercises and write some stuff, and they gave us some really excellent game kits, which I'm going to totally use in some of my graduate level classes. I think that was part of the problem with it, was that they read like graduate level exercises, and so when we took them to kids, you watch people's eyes glaze over as they kind of approach this big mass of text, and so we really had to we did some play testing at some big events with the Hive in downtown New York, and then one out of YMCA out in the Bronx with lots of kids, and seeing lots of kids come in and interact with it, and seeing how they did or did not take in the material, and what you actually had to do to deliver the material was really interesting. You were there with me at the playtest in the Bronx, and this feeling of like we had all this great information that was presented in this really beautiful website for them on paper handouts, and no one read any of it. We had to explain it all, and so from that we took like, well, man, we just got to make this shorter. We got to make this like punchier and snappier and get to the point a lot quicker. And so from there we went back to the drawing board on sort of what the actual information delivery would look like, and Shula and Brendan and Claudio and some other the game designers at Mission Lab and I all sat down and started thinking about like, how do we deliver that information, what you need to know about this game design exercise really, really quickly, and then keep reiterating that. And so the design of it is very much, we give you this sort of initial video. We may give you a video or an interactive little thing, which kind of gets the main idea, and then there's some visual steps which reiterate that idea and take you a little bit deeper, and then there's a large chunk of text which you can go deeper and deeper on if you want to. But the idea is that, by just watching the video you kind of get the concept. Then if you read the instructions, you get like, oh, now I know how to begin and I can start doing it. Because I think that was one of the big things, and this is again like Bob says, all goes back to game design. You just want to get people doing stuff as quickly as possible, and we weren't doing that before. We were hitting them up front with a lot of information and not having them do, and so we kind of reversed that, and we hit them with a little bit of information and just had them start making stuff right away, and then hopefully the learning comes in after they do that.
So you think probably the biggest challenge that you guys had that paid off most was this realization that you needed to get kids making stuff as soon as possible? Is that?
Yeah, I think that was a huge part of it. I mean, because once people start making stuff and playing with stuff, they start, it's it's just a lot more fun. And in doing that, I think they become engaged. I mean, games are all about interactivity, and most of us skip the cutscenes in most games because you actually want to be doing something. I think it's the same with game design. You kind of want to jump into doing stuff, and so I think that by putting that up front, hopefully we got more to a state where you actually got to do more of the interacting right away. I think that was a big one.
I was going to say it's kind of a form of progressive engagement where you hook them, and then you start to ramp up the challenges over time to make them more challenging. And once there's that level of engagement, you can really build on that. And what we found, even from the very early designs, that kids would just like, oh, that's going to take a day, not interested. There's too much text to read, not interested. So. The success of the product really hinges on that that hook, and then sort of slowly build on that over time, I think.
Right, and to be fair, like we were saying, like, oh well, kids weren't interested. I wasn't interested in reading it most of the time either. I think that's anytime you're doing something on the web, you have just a couple seconds to get people to interact. So a valuable lesson we all forget all the time.
That's right.
Definitely. Okay, so thanks guys. Let's see what Gamekit looks like in action. I'm wondering if Greg and Shula, while you guys are setting up, maybe one of you guys want to first explain what this demo is setting out to accomplish?
Hold on one sec.
Okay.
Sure. Let me. Actually, we will. I'm just setting up the camera.
Okay. So I can explain a little bit what our ideas were. We wanted to kind of show Gamekit in action for everybody. The idea behind this is that Gamekit's about making stuff, so there's no sense in us just showing you guys a website. We thought it'd be much more fun to actually make something today with everybody. So in that vein, we've got our lovely game designers here who are gonna take a crack at the design, find, play, and stuff exercise.
Can everyone hear us?
Yeah, if you guys want to speak up just a little bit, and Greg, I can't see you.
Okay, I'm hiding.
Okay.
All right, let me pull up the game kits for these guys, so we'll show them what we're gonna.
So right now we're gonna show these guys the video that is up on the Gamekit website for this specific challenge. So we're gonna introduce them to the challenge so they know what they're supposed to do. And Greg will share that, put that up on his screen as well so everyone can see that video.
All right. So here's this exercise is find, play, in things. That's not day behind it, sort of everyday objects. So. So again, for that was like just to show you guys a quick video of like what we're sort of what the main idea behind that. That's this idea that like every object has like play in it. There's like balls bounce, rubber bands fly, cups stack, all sorts of things. And when you're making games, very much often what you're doing is sort of finding that thing and drawing it out by giving it rules. So here now we'll kind of move on to the visual instruction or the visual part of it. So we've got step one, gather materials for this. So we've got our bag of rubber bands here. Actually, we want to open those up. And we do, actually, I will, here are our coins here. We've got 5 coins. I've actually tossed in an extra one
before you got it. We said 4, but it could be 5. And the idea behind this is we give a sort of list of materials, but it's not necessarily supposed to be like canonical. It's just the idea that, you know, these are some, you can make games out of anything.
Mm-hmm.
Then step 2, this idea of exploring activities. You know, taking these objects, figure out what you can do with them, and then exactly, shoot them at your friends who are sitting next to you. Then picking a core activity, and this is one of the big things in games is like finding what that one mechanic, like that one activity you're going to do, and then building your game mechanic around that. Picking a goal for that. Creating some rules that structure the play for everybody, and then play testing your game. This is the part I'm most excited about because Shula and I will get to play some games. I'm much happier, so that's what I'm looking forward to. So with that, I will turn it over to you guys to start using these materials to make Shula and I a game to play.
Yeah. And as you're designing, as you're working with the materials, just sort of talk us through as much as you can, sort of what you're doing, what you're thinking.
Okay.
So
Cups can be especially cool.
cups. Like stack them.
And guys, I'm sorry, make sure to speak up.
Can you guys hear us?
Yeah, just talk a little bit louder.
All right. So we're thinking about having like stacking these cups for some reason. I don't know. Why not? I'm also thinking that maybe we shouldn't have this many rubber bands. So maybe just 5, 1 for each coin or something.
And because
That's
I
5.
pick this, you can
Wait, no. That's okay.
you can use a rubber band as a slingshot.
Let's just move this.
If you do it correctly.
So you won't hit me, or if you can.
Yeah.
Harder than it looks.
Yes.
You're 1 cent short. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So maybe we could find a way to create the rubber band, or tie the rubber band so that they're like a slingshot-ish. So I remember you can make like a little. So if you like hold it like this. Other way. Wait, stop. My beautiful. Wait, hold it like this.
2-player.
Oh, so close.
Okay.
I don't know if you guys can see this, but this is a very impressive multi-rubber band slingshot they've got going here.
Okay, that's a little.
It takes 2 people to operate.
Okay. You seem to know what you're doing.
Okay.
So what's going on? What's becoming the objective of this game?
To try to knock over all the cups.
Yeah. So
In the right way.
So what are you guys finding so far with the rubber bands? Is it easier or harder than you thought it was?
It's harder than I thought it would
yeah.
be.
And what exactly is the right way of knocking over the cups, I'm wondering?
You'd like to knock out the 2 middle ones first, with holding up all the
Or
other ones.
try and do it as in few shots as possible.
I think we gotta knock over one of them first. I think that should be our goal.
Yeah, I know.
So,
Okay, let me try again.
so this is. Go
Let's
ahead.
try the penny.
So try this, and then I would say if this doesn't work, maybe this is a good opportunity to rethink
Yeah.
your design and try to.
Oh, all right.
So, penny works.
A penny works.
Or
A penny.
A dime.
dime
But only if you're sitting a foot away from it.
True. So maybe we should put it back a little bit more. Didn't they see that?
Can the camera see that?
Yeah.
You guys see the new stack?
No.
All right, let me.
Move everything toward you, Greg.
We can move it over.
Yep.
Where can this? There we go.
Oop, move it back just a little bit toward you, Liam.
Right here?
Nope, a little bit further back, so it's kind of touching the ledge. Perfect. Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Spectator scores we're making here. You guys didn't realize that as well.
I'm missing one.
We're missing one. No, well.
All right, well,
I can just go grab another one.
It's fine.
keep moving with ages.
So, we'll try and move back a little bit. That makes it easier or much, much, much harder. So I guess I have to pull it back more.
Would you guys still think, like, so you guys you've tried out the coins, is that, you guys still feel like that's the right mechanic? I mean, shooting rubber bands?
Isn't exactly as spectacular or fun.
Okay, fair enough.
But it might work better.
But it might work better. It might be a tad safer. Much safer. If you guys didn't see that, it just went over the camera.
Yeah, that might not be a good.
Yeah.
So maybe you should think of some new mechanics. Like, what else could you do with these materials other than fling coins with rubber bands?
We could. What we could do is we could have like this. We could have like a little, I guess, a football goal or something like that, and try and shoot a rubber band through it.
Okay.
Or try and shoot a rubber band through this little tiny hole this makes.
Oh, nice target.
So we're practicing accuracy or judging it. Or something. I know this is gonna miss, but that wasn't the goal. But I said that.
That was the original goal.
Yes.
And it could be either, I mean, it could be cooperative, like the shooting the coins one was, because one person had to hold it back. And,
Yeah.
or it could be competitive in which you're trying to go against each other. Yeah.
What if you so you guys have explored like shooting mechanics. What are there other things like when you were doing this, like the stacking of them? Is there other stuff that like the game, like other places that these sort of things take you?
We could do one of those like where is it?
Oh, the hiding with one. Yeah.
We could also do one of these like stacking games where you see how fast you can stack it.
Right.
But that doesn't involve all of the components.
I don't think you need to use all of them, but what about, so there's also flicking, which you haven't explored.
Ooh.
So I'm wondering if there could be a mechanic around maybe one person is stacking, the other person's flicking, and you're trying to like
Race against
nice.
something like that.
Let's try that.
So I'm trying to
Try it out. So maybe
You're trying to knock it over before I.
So
Okay.
Rocco, maybe you should build it like this way, like facing, so it's sort of between you guys.
Or you're trying to build it and I'm trying to constantly stop you from building.
Right.
Okay.
Try it out.
Why not?
Ready, set,
Can you like move all the coins so I can actually... This is my last coin. I have to make it count.
So you would need more coins for this.
Definitely. Or the ones that we lost.
Right.
I think Liam wins.
So maybe this is too hard, right? It's not sort of
It's
balanced.
not balanced.
Yeah.
So it would take a little bit more experimenting to figure out that right balance.
Yeah.
Does that feel fun though?
Yes.
Yeah.
Fun for it was fun for you with the board.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was.
Yeah, I mean that's the key. It's like so once you have that sort of kernel of some fun activity, is like kind of drawing it out with some structure, and trying it out different ways.
Right, and building in some rules so there are restrictions. So Liam, you couldn't just like take a coin and throw it.
Yeah, I would have to either flick it. Well, just flip it.
Right.
And you couldn't just start with the whole thing made. So. What else?
You guys want to keep trying? So you guys have a couple of different directions you've tried out, like flicking, stacking, like slingshots. Shul and I want to play a game though, so you got to sort of like start.
Pressure.
And we want to play. So you guys got to you want to start like figuring out like where is it you want to go? Like what is the sort of mechanic or activity you're gonna refine into your? What is the activity you're gonna refine into your game?
I just want to say, Rocco, I can't see you if you want to move a little bit. Awesome. Thanks.
So where should we go? Should we go?
I think the building room was pretty fun.
Yeah. So how could we use the rubber bands?
Do we have to?
Or do we have to?
Nope, you don't have to use all of them.
Okay.
But we do need more coins, right?
Or
I think one of them flew over there.
Yeah.
oh, you're lucky to have 2 powerful quarters.
Okay.
Awesome.
I got that.
You're welcome.
That's your promise, not mine. So how can we make it so maybe I'm limited to these number of coins to try and constantly deny you from building?
Yeah.
And then once I lose all of these, I lose or something?
Or if I build the tower, then you lose.
Yeah.
But if you knock it over, then you win.
Yeah.
Did you guys hear that? Did you guys hear that?
Are we good?
Yep.
You heard? Okay. I wanted to make sure you heard they just said how you win the game.
Yeah, I'm liking the sound of it. So it was let's see it in action.
Okay. Wait, let me just...
So what is it again? Explain. You have to build.
So
all
I have
the-
to try to build the tower up.
Okay.
And then I win, or if he runs out of coins, I win. But if he knocks the tower up, yeah.
Maybe you should start with all of them stacked up. So that I don't lose. Yeah.
All right.
So it's at least a little bit.
Can the camera see me?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's right up there.
Okay. Ready, set, go.
Not built a tower. Okay. Let's see where we go.
Oh, he blocked you.
Okay.
Genius.
No. Okay, Liam wins.
Well, does it seem like the game is advantage to the person flicking the coins? Like I mean, you got a fair amount of a tower built.
Yeah.
Maybe it needs a scoring system like that says like.
Yeah, for every time he stacks it, he gets a rubber band
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah. It could be he's trying to build like rows almost.
Or I could just build like
For less points.
Could be like how many you have left standing at the end, or like rather if you just have one tower, because how many you have left? What when you guys did it last time? What wound up like at the end? What did the sort of results on the field look like? You had
We're all knocked over.
but there were a couple standing.
Yeah.
Maybe it's like maybe for everyone that's knocked over, you get points, and maybe for everyone standing up, Rocco gets points. Maybe something like that.
I think unfortunately, even though you guys look like you're having a lot of fun, we need to wrap it up.
Ah!
So, should we do a quick play test? Maybe Greg and I can do a really 1 minute long play test and then move on from there.
I gotta play this.
Does that sound good?
Okay, sweet. Yep. 30-second play test.
You want to stack or shoot? Okay.
I also liked that technique with Rocco blocking me.
Okay.
Okay.
So tell us your game. What is this called?
tower coins.
Tower coins.
Tower
Okay.
coins.
All right.
Nice.
Now what do I do? What's my?
You have to try to flick the coins.
Okay.
To prevent her from building a tower.
Do I have restrictions on how I have to build the tower?
You have to build
It has to be a 4-base tower.
yeah, 4 on the
Okay.
bottom, then 3, then 2.
Okay.
Okay. I have 5 coins. Everyone for watching at home. Okay.
All right.
And you cannot pick them off of the floor.
The coin.
Can I use 2
Okay.
hands?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Oh. I'll wait for the last second. Oh wait!
No.
I was thinking you could rebuild them all after I was
Oh.
done. Nice.
Sure.
All right. Cool. I like the
That
sort
was
of
fun,
core of
guys.
this game. It's interesting. It needs a little bit of refinement, a little bit of tweaks on like how it ends up. But I think the general activity of like one person stacking, one person trying to destroy their stack
Yeah,
of stuff is
I
kind
think
of
that's
cool.
cool.
Yeah.
I liked it.
Like if you won.
Nice work, guys.
Awesome. Thank you, Liam and Rocco, for demoing. That was so cool. So we need to wrap up shortly, but before we do, I just want to remind our viewers that they can also ask Liam and Rocco questions about Gamekit, which we'll be answering in just a few minutes. We have a bunch of questions, so we're gonna leave some time to get to them. But before we do, let's quickly discuss the uses for Gamekit. How and by who and in what types of environments is Gamekit most effective? I'm wondering if Don, if you could talk about this.
Hi, yeah. All right. Sorry to make sure the microphone's working. Yeah, so as far as uses for Gamekit, I touched on it a little bit earlier, and I don't think it's something that many people said, but one of the great things is that it can be largely self-directed and something that students can do on their own. So when we first play tested this with students, we had a lot of activities. One of the longer form ones that Greg's talked about that were made, that were given to students to take home. And this is something I think is very important, because even if we all operate in a formal school setting and we're doing game design, like many students at Quest to Learn, at many other schools, the students don't always get that chance. After-school programs for game design might even be more scarce than stuff that goes on during the school day. So if students are interested in game design but they don't have anywhere to start and they're looking for introductory activities, Gamekit is one great resource that they have. And this is something that students are motivated, they want to learn, but they don't have any other way to get started. This is a great way. And another thing about that is if they don't have any other friends or at their school or that may be interested in that, they can also share online and then get feedback. So I just want to again stress that one great thing is for motivated students to do this on their own in a self-directed manner. But at the same time, it also works well, say, in an informal setting for students in an after-school program, or maybe there's not resources allocated for a teacher or to learn game design, or for teachers that might want to host some type of club because they know their student interest, but there's just no way for them to take on and learn these game design skills that they would then need to teach to students. So it's something that teachers can use to help facilitate student learning around game design, experimentation, and play. So it's a resource. It's a resource for students if they're working alone. It's a resource for teachers if they're working with students, but may not have the time to go into it the way they might want. And of course, it can be adapted in many other ways. One thing that I think Greg and I learned about the play test that we did was that, as he said, the students at the One Hive event, they came in, they're like, all right, what are we doing right away? We had all this long-form text work written out, but we ended up just getting right into the activities. And that's one of the important things. That was in each one of these activities still, after the revisions, there's a lot of content there. There's a lot that you can dive into. And it can finally also be used for teachers that just need some inspiration for something that might already be doing game design. So I think there's a lot of content there that can be used in just about any way, either students on their own, teachers still facilitating students, or just teachers that may need inspiration, help kickstart game design workshops or classes that they already have in progress.
Great. Does anybody else want to respond, or did Don pretty much sum it up? Good. Okay, great. So let's move on to the Q&A portion. Our first question is from Alex, who asks, does Gamekit provide any tools for creating digital games?
I can take that. It doesn't in itself, but but the first set of challenges is around creating a game in GameStar Mechanic, which is a tool that we help to contribute to the development and design of, there's a free version of that. So we can in that challenge, you go on and create a free account with this game design tool, GameStar Mechanic, and you complete the challenge in that interface. The other thing that Don sort of alluded to is that at the end of each challenge, we have sort of the steps at the top, and then we have some dive deeper and some content that's specifically for educators. And then at the end, there's an area where you can submit your own designs or your solutions to the challenge. And in that way, we're hoping to encourage a community to start forming around, around game design and around Gamekit itself.
Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing I'll add to is, as Gamekit, we imagine Gamekit growing over time and adding new challenges. And so right now, a lot of them are sort of pen and paper or card game based, and we have the GameStar challenge. In the future, as we get new game designers to write us new challenges, I imagine some of those will be digital. Gamekit won't specifically host the tools, but will point you to places where you can actually find really great tools online, and there's a ton of them out there.
Great. So our next question comes from Mark, and he says, I'm a student in a game design class at my high school. Do you think it is better for me or for the students to start off modding classical games, or to try to walk them through making their own games?
I'll take that one. I think that it's better to start out modding classical games because, first of all, it provides a base to work off of that's already proven and works well, and it also is much simpler and is easier to test. It also makes more sense to the students.
Thanks, Rocco.
Well said.
I know, right? That was awesome.
Perfect.
Okay, so I don't think any more needs to be explained. So the next question is from Jake, and he asks, was there a specific way that you envisioned the students would use the objects in the game kit? Was there a game that you thought they would make? If so, what would it be?
I guess I can take this one. So specifically in this one, we were trying to give objects that that people could use and play with relatively quickly. And there are, there was no one game that we necessarily wanted people to make. There are certainly games that people tend to make. People tend to make games where they shoot cups over. But at the same time, as we've seen people, do this exercise, what's really cool is people do other totally weird things with it. One time we saw people do something with the rubber bands where they shot pencils at papers to draw pictures using rubber bands, which was like the most crazy thing I've ever seen. And so I think there's lots of different things you can do. The idea was just to have objects which had sort of, playful qualities that you can very easily see. And as more people use it, more interesting things will emerge.
Awesome. Okay, and then the next question is, what do you think is the most important thing for educators to know who are interested in incorporating more gamification into their curriculum and lessons?
So I guess that's an interesting question. In terms of gamification, I mean, I think there's two ways to think of that. Like, there's sort of gamifying the lessons that you already have, and then also doing stuff like this where it's more specifically about making just classical games. I think the big thing to remember is always like, what are the goals that you're giving students, and setting them up, because really what's really great about games is they point you to a goal, and that activity, that kind of make you single-mindedly go after that thing, and that can be used to service many things, from things like Foursquare, where it's capturing restaurants, to learning bits of new knowledge, if it's the goal structure is in the right way, structured in the right way. I know, Shula, would you have stuff to add to that?
I think that's a great answer.
Okay, so the next question is, I'm going to combine two just because I think that they're going to be pretty simple to answer. But first, does Gamekit cost anything? And the second one is, when will Gamekit be live?
Hey, no, those are great, pretty simple questions. This is Alice responding. So Gamekit doesn't cost anything. It's a totally free product. We really want it to be something that everybody can access. So it's available to anybody who's interested. And the beta site is up now, and people are welcome to go there starting today if they're interested, to take a peek and get going with Gamekit. But we're going live officially March 1st with Gamekit, and then we're going to start releasing new challenges starting the following month, which is March 1st. So February 1st is our official launch, and then March 1st we'll start releasing new challenges.
Great, thanks. Okay, so the next question is from EF High School, and they ask, what is the best way to analyze a game that you created? How many times do you suggest playtesting?
That's a tough one. I would, until it's fun. I don't know, Rocco, Liam, do you guys have thoughts on that one?
Sure, I'll take that one. I think the best way to analyze a game is do not play it yourself. Because you've basically become accustomed to everything you've done, and you're basically worthless to the testing of your own game. So, having other people test your game who may not be very, very close friends or family, because there's always that kind of natural bias. So you just have to kind of eliminate that as much as you can. And just test it as much as you want. And just test it until you feel like someone's enjoying it and you've made enough iterations that it works. A game is almost never perfect, so you can't just constantly being making iterations. There has to be a time where you go, okay, this works, people had fun, I had fun making this, I'll move on to something that's even better.
Spoken like a professional game designer.
Yeah, I know. Thanks, Liam.
Yeah.
So the next question is from TJ, and he asks, as gaming is starting to make its way slowly into schools to promote teaching, can you see it evolving into something much larger, as it is to be used in schools across America to help teach any subject, if not all subjects?
Hey, all right. Alice is handing me the microphone, so I think I'm going to start this one off. So yeah, it's a complex question here, but if we take a look here again, so it's evolving to something much larger used in schools to help teach any subject. So I guess one thing that we should mention is that it might not always be games that are used in every class, but one thing that we talk about when we talk about games at Quest to Learn and is game-like learning, and I think that's one thing that we want to hint on here. So it might always be that they're playing an actual game in class or making games in class, but to touch on what we said earlier about having a fear of failure, that's one thing that we can look at in the classroom. If we can try to kind of rid a classroom of the fear of failure and have students experiment and iterate on their ideas and learn in that way, that's one way that we can incorporate game-like learning into class without actually having games. So I think those those ways of thinking are going to be increasing in classrooms, both formally and informally, and naturally along with that will come the acceptance of games and new ways of learning. Anyone else?
Right. I mean, I would just add to that. I mean, a little bit. I mean, games are great, and they're great at teaching certain things. They're not great at teaching everything. And so I think it's as we, this is kind of an interesting new space and time. And as we kind of go forward, we'll figure out like what are game and game-like structures really good at sort of providing motivation and structure for people to use in terms of learning, in terms of doing anything. So it's an interesting time, and as I said, like games aren't perfect for everything, but they're really great at some things.
Awesome. Okay, well, we're out of time. If we didn't get to your question, please check back on this page. We're going to be answering them in the comments section. If you'd like to continue the discussion, you can also feel free to post your thoughts and additional questions in the comments section at the bottom of this page. I'd like to thank everyone for joining us, especially Rocco and Liam. And I know that you guys have to run along with Shula, so you guys feel free to pack up. And please join us next Wednesday, February 6th. We'll be for the next episode of Playtime Online. It's also Digital Learning Day, so it's a good day to drop by our webinar. And we'll be hearing from Glass Lab about their latest endeavor, which is modding SimCity for classroom learning. The Glass Lab team, they'll be presenting their work in progress of their first SimCity mod, and they'd like for your feedback. So students and parents and teachers, please be sure to tune in and let Glass Lab know if they're on the right track. And for updates on Playtime, please sign up for our mailing list. All you have to do is click the Join Us button at the top of this page. Thanks for watching, everyone. And if you like what we're doing, please spread the word. Have a great afternoon.
Thanks, Amna.
Thanks. Bye, guys. Thanks.
Thanks. Bye.